beautiful, stunning, elegant. In the 1970s, these women weren't just famous, they were legendary. They lit up movie screens, graced magazine covers, and captured hearts around the world. Every teenage boy had a poster of at least one of them on his wall, and every late-night talk show wanted them on the couch. They were the dream girls of a generation, the ones everyone wanted to date or at least be seen with. But the 70s are long gone, and so are the days of glitzy premieres and disco-era charm. Today, those same women who once defined beauty and stardom have changed. Some gracefully, some dramatically. Curious to see how these unforgettable women look now? Let's take a look at the women who once ruled the decade and where time has taken them since. Raquel Welch. She wasn't just a star, she was the star. In the 1970s, Raquel Welch was the woman every man wanted to date and every woman wanted to be. Her iconic image in a fur bikini from 1 million years BC didn't just define a film, it defined an era. But long before she became a global sex symbol, Welch's rise began modestly as a spokesmodel on Hollywood Palace and in a minor role in Elvis Presley's Roustabout. Then came the big break. In 1966, Fantastic Voyage and 1 million years BC rocketed her into stardom. I'm 1 million years BC. Welch didn't have her speak much, but it didn't matter. Her image spoke louder than words ever could. From there, the roles poured in. She played gun-slinging beauties in westerns like Bandolero and 100 Rifles, which sparked headlines with her interracial love scene alongside football legend Jim Brown. She proved she wasn't just a pretty face with a Golden Globe-winning turn as Constance de Bonacieux in The Three Musketeers, a role she reprised the following year. But perhaps her boldest move came in Myra Breckinridge, where she played a trans actress in a film that challenged Hollywood norms decades ahead of its time. The 1990s and 2000s saw her embrace her legend status, playing herself on Seinfeld, stealing scenes in Legally Blonde, and even starring in family sitcoms like Date My Dad in 2017. She also built a beauty empire with wigs, skincare, and jewelry. But time, as always, is undefeated. Welch passed away in 2023 at 82 after a brief illness, leaving behind 2 children and a legacy that won't fade. Once the dream girl of the 70s, today she is remembered as a trailblazer, a bombshell, and a woman who never let anyone box her in. Farrah Fawcett. In the 1970s, no woman lit up American TV screens quite like Farrah Fawcett. With her megawatt smile, sun-kissed waves, and that unforgettable red swimsuit poster, she didn't just become famous, she became a cultural phenomenon. Everyone wanted to date her, and millions of women lined up at salons begging for the Farrah haircut. But behind the looks was a talented, determined actress who refused to be boxed into a single image. Born Farrah Lenny Fawcett in Corpus Christi, Texas, Farrah was raised Roman Catholic and studied at the University of Texas, where her all-American beauty landed her on a national Most Beautiful Co-eds list. That single photo changed everything. A Hollywood publicist came calling, and by the summer after her junior year, Farrah was en route to Los Angeles with her parents' cautious blessing to give acting a shot. She began in commercials, Breck Shampoo, Noxzema, Ultra Bright, before exploding onto the scene as Jill Monroe in Charlie's Angels, 1976. The show made her a household name overnight. That now legendary swimsuit poster sold over 12 million copies and redefined the very concept of a sex symbol. But Farrah didn't stay in the glossy spotlight. She craved respect as an actress and proved herself in emotional roles in TV movies like The Burning Bed and Small Sacrifices, earning multiple Emmy and Golden Globe nominations. Her artistic ambitions led her to off-Broadway performances, and critics took note. This wasn't just a pretty face. Farrah's final years were marked by a courageous, highly public battle with cancer, which she documented in the 2009 film Farrah's Story. She passed away later that year at age 62. Once the fantasy of the 70s, today, Farrah is remembered for her strength, talent, and a legacy far deeper than the poster that made her famous. Olivia Newton-John. In the 1970s, everyone wanted to date Olivia Newton-John. With her soft, radiant beauty and angelic voice, she was the dream girl of a generation. And by the time Grease hit theaters in 1978, she had become a global sensation. But Olivia was more than just Sandy in a poodle skirt. She was one of the best-selling recording artists of all time, with over 100 million records sold, and a voice that could shift from tender to electric in seconds. Her 1981 hit Physical became Billboard's biggest song of the decade, while I Honestly Love You won her the Grammy for Record of the Year. The Grease soundtrack, powered by her duets with John Travolta, remains one of the best-selling albums in history. Olivia's chart success extended through the 70s and 80s with hits like Magic, A Little More Love, and Have You Never Been Mellow. She earned 4 Grammys, 9 Billboard Music Awards, and 6 American Music Awards. She was also awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and was made a Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 2020. Behind the scenes, Olivia fought a long private battle with breast cancer, which she first faced in 1992 and later in 2013 and 2017. When the disease progressed to stage 4, she turned her pain into purpose by founding the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness and Research Center in Melbourne and championing medical cannabis for pain relief. Olivia passed away in August 2022 at her California home, surrounded by family. Tributes poured in from around the world, from John Travolta to Australia's Prime Minister. Today, her legacy lives on through her music, her daughter Chloe's cannabis advocacy, and the lives she touched through her unwavering grace and strength. Morgan Fairchild. Morgan Fairchild has always turned heads. With her looks, she became one of the most recognizable faces on TV. But long before Dallas and Falcon Crest, she was just a girl growing up in Dallas, Texas, with a strange love for dinosaurs. Born Patsy Ann McClenny on February 3, 1950, Fairchild didn't dream of Hollywood right away. As a kid, she was completely into paleontology. She had a fascination for dinosaurs, bones, and digging in the dirt. Even after her face was plastered all across the TV, she never lost that curiosity. Years later, she even gave talks at fan conventions like Comikaze, sharing her love of science with people who only knew her from the screen. Her first steps into showbiz weren't in front of the camera. She worked as a stand-in for Faye Dunaway on Bonnie and Clyde and for Jane Fonda on Barbarella. Just watching the stars work gave her a feel for it all. That quiet start helped her grow into the actress we saw everywhere in the 70s and 80s. At 14, she entered the Miss Teenage Dallas contest. She didn't win, but it got her used to being in front of people. Later, she picked a new name, Morgan Fairchild, after a film she liked called Morgan. And just like that, she was off. She even once turned down hosting Saturday Night Live to film a role in Israel. That's how she's always been, doing things her own way. Now, at 75, she's still sharp, still stylish, and still full of surprises. People may remember her as the woman everyone wanted to date in the 70s, but she's more than that. She's still here, still turning heads, and still doing things her way. Candice Bergen. Candice Bergen was born into Hollywood. Literally, her mother was a professional model, and her father, Edgar Bergen, was one of the most famous ventriloquists and radio comedians of the time. By the time she was a toddler, Candice was already appearing on her father's radio show. At 11, she made her screen debut alongside him on You Bet Your Life, hosted by Groucho Marx. She went on to attend the University of Pennsylvania, though her time there was cut short. She was expelled after 2 years, but by then, she was already heading toward the spotlight. In 1966, she landed her first film role in The Group, playing a lesbian character in Sidney Lumet's adaptation of the Mary McCarthy novel. That same year, she appeared opposite Steve McQueen in The Sand Pebbles, playing a young missionary. By the late 60s and into the 70s, Candace had become something of an icon. With her beauty, sharp wit, and calm confidence, she wasn't just admired, she was wanted. Everyone seemed to have a crush on her. But she was never one to play the typical Hollywood game. While people focused on her looks, she worked on becoming more than just a pretty face. In the 1970s, she picked up photography as a serious craft. Her photos were published in Esquire Life and other major magazines. She also began carving out a solid film career, though it wasn't until the late 80s that she truly hit her stride with Murphy Brown, playing the no-nonsense TV journalist who was smart, stubborn, and unapologetically bold. Decades later, she's still working, still sharp, still funny. From Boston Legal to Book Club to Let Them All Talk, Candice Bergen continues to prove that beauty fades, but talent and charm? Those last. Jane Seymour. Jane Seymour has always had a certain kind of glow. Born Joyce Penelope Wilhelmina Frankenberg on February 15, 1951, she didn't just become an actress, she became a name people remembered. Her first time on screen was a blink-and-you-miss-it moment in Oh, What a Lovely War in 1969, but it didn't take long before real roles started coming her way. By the early 1970s, she had landed a lead role in the TV drama The One Din Line, and then, in 1973, she became a Bond girl, Solitaire, in Live and Let Die. Mysterious, elegant, and unforgettable, Jane wasn't just acting, she was becoming a global obsession. In the 70s, everyone wanted to know who Jane Seymour was. With her long brown hair, great physique, and beautiful eyes, she was impossible to ignore. But she wasn't just a pretty face. Critics took her seriously. She was nominated for an Emmy in 1976 for Captains and the Kings, and more recognition followed. In the 80s, she won a Golden Globe for East of Eden, played Wallace Simpson in The Woman He Loved, and portrayed Maria Callas in Onassis, The Richest Man in the World, a performance that won her an Emmy. Then came Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman in 1993. As the strong, intelligent, and kind-hearted Michaela Quinn, Jane became a household name all over again. The show ran for 6 seasons and earned her several Emmy and Golden Globe nominations and one big win. Over the years, Jane Seymour has stayed busy. She's acted in everything from Somewhere in Time and Wedding Crashers to The War with Grandpa. She paints, designs jewelry, writes books, and runs the Open Hearts Foundation. Now in her 70s, Jane still has that same graceful beauty that once made her the crush of a generation. Goldie Hawn. Goldie Hawn was never just another blonde on screen. Born on November 21, 1945 in Washington, D.C., she grew up in Maryland and started dance lessons when she was just 3. By the time she finished high school, she was already on a creative path, studying drama at American University while teaching dance on the side. Her first break came not through acting, but dancing. She performed in chorus lines and even worked as a go-go dancer in nightclubs before landing her first TV gig. In 1967, after being spotted in a TV special, she was cast as the quirky neighbor in the sitcom Good Morning World. That led to her breakout on the sketch comedy show Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, where her bubbly laugh, dizzy charm, and wide-eyed delivery made her an instant star. Hollywood took notice fast. In 1969, she played a free-spirited girlfriend in Cactus Flower. And though the film itself got mixed reviews, Goldie stole the spotlight. She won an Oscar and a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress, something few saw coming. Suddenly, everyone wanted to work with her. And yes, everyone wanted to date her too. In the early 70s, she was everywhere. There's a Girl in My Soup with Peter Sellers, Dollars, Butterflies Are Free, and later Shampoo, where she starred again with Beatty and Julie Christie. People loved her because she was more than funny. She was warm, unpredictable, and real. Then in 1980, she produced and starred in Private Benjamin, earning an Oscar nomination for Best Actress. That same decade, she met Kurt Russell on the set of Swing Shift. They've been together ever since. Now in her late 70s, Goldie still lights up a room. Back then, she was the woman everyone was chasing. These days, she's the one still dancing, still laughing, and still completely herself. Cher has never really followed the rules. Born on May 20th, 1946, in El Centro, California, she grew up moving from place to place with her mother, Georgia Holt, an aspiring actress who worked hard to support her daughters. Life was often unstable. After her parents' first divorce, Cher even spent time in an orphanage while her mother tried to get back on her feet. School didn't come easy for Cher. She later realized she had undiagnosed dyslexia, which made learning tough and often frustrating. At just 16, she left school and headed to Los Angeles, where everything began to change. That's where she met Salvatore "Sonny" Bono, a songwriter who became her musical partner, then her husband. Together, they became one of the most unforgettable duos of the 1960s. In 1965, I Got You Babe launched Sonny and Cher into pop stardom. Their music, charm, and chemistry made them household names. But it wasn't just the songs or the quirky outfits. There was something magnetic about Cher. By the 1970s, with her striking looks, rebellious attitude, and bold voice, she wasn't just popular. She was iconic. And yes, more than a few people wanted to date her. As their popularity faded in the late 60s, Cher didn't fade with it. She kept pushing forward. In 1971, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour brought them back into the spotlight, even as Cher's solo career began to soar. With hits like Gypsies, Tramps and Thieves, Half-Breed, and Dark Lady, she proved she could shine on her own. After divorcing Sonny in 1974, she stepped further into acting. She earned praise on Broadway and in films like Silkwood, Mask, and Moonstruck, which won her an Oscar. Her performances were sharp, emotional, and completely her own. Through the years, Cher never stopped reinventing herself. She starred in Mermaids, Burlesque, and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, while also building a new fan base with her Las Vegas residencies and albums like Dancing Queen and Christmas. She raised two sons, Chaz Bono and Elijah Blue Allman, and kept showing the world that age has nothing to do with relevance. Now, in her late 70s, Cher is still doing what she's always done, on her terms. Back in the 70s, she was the woman everyone couldn't stop talking about. And today, she's still that woman. Maybe even more. Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks didn't just sing, she cast a spell. Born on May 26, 1948, in Phoenix, Arizona, she was given the name Stephanie. But as a toddler, she couldn't quite pronounce it. Stevie stuck, and it fit her perfectly. Her childhood was shaped by constant moves for her father's job, and by the time she was a teenager, the family had settled in California. That move would change everything. At Menlo Atherton High School, she met Lindsey Buckingham. They sang together for the first time at a church gathering. It was just a casual performance of California Dreamin'. But the spark was there. Years later, while attending San Jose State University, Stevie was invited to join Lindsey's band, Fritz. The group played bluesy, psychedelic rock, and for a while, they found small success. But in the early 70s, the two left the band, moved to Los Angeles, and became more than just musical partners. As Buckingham Nicks, they released an album in 1973 that barely made a dent. But Stevie didn't give up. She worked as a waitress and a cleaner to keep their dream alive. Then came the break. Fleetwood Mac drummer Mick Fleetwood heard their music and wanted Lindsey to join the band. Lindsey said yes, only if Stevie came too. In 1975, they both became part of Fleetwood Mac, and the rest is music history. Stevie's voice was like nothing else, raw, aching, and full of emotion. On stage, she became a vision, draped in shawls and gliding across the stage like she wasn't quite part of this world. In the late 70s, as Fleetwood Mac exploded in popularity, so did Stevie. With her look, her sound, and her mystique, she became one of the most desired women in rock, not just for her beauty, but for the wild magic she brought into every room. Behind the scenes, she battled addiction and made multiple attempts to get clean. She's been open about the struggles, the rehab, and the toll it took. But through it all, she kept creating. Her solo work, including hits like Edge of 17, stood on its own. She proved she didn't need to rely on anyone else to shine. Now in her 70s, Stevie is still touring, still writing, and still wearing her signature shawls. Back then, everyone wanted to be around her. These days, not much has changed. Except now, they admire her just as much for surviving as they once did for the way she soared. Jaclyn Smith. Jaclyn Smith didn't just play an angel on screen. She became one of the most iconic faces of the 1970s. Born on October 26, 1945, she began her career in 1968 with small roles, slowly working her way through the business. Then, in 1976, everything changed. She was cast as Kelly Garrett in Charlie's Angels, joining Kate Jackson and Farrah Fawcett in what would become one of the biggest shows of the decade. The impact was instant. The trio became overnight stars, with Jaclyn quickly becoming a fan favorite. Her calm, graceful style, paired with quiet strength, stood out. Of the original three, she was the only one who stayed through the entire 5-season run, proof of her staying power and dedication. In the late 70s, Jaclyn was everywhere. Magazine covers, red carpets, talk shows. People couldn't get enough of her, and it wasn't just her beauty. She had a warmth and class that made her not just admired, but adored. Back then, everyone seemed to have a crush on Jaclyn Smith. But she didn't stop with Charlie's Angels. In 1981, she took on the role of Jacqueline Kennedy in a TV movie that earned her a Golden Globe nomination. Over the next 2 decades, she became a regular on television screens, starring in popular films like Rage of Angels, George Washington, The Bourne Identity, and Kaleidoscope. She also had recurring roles on series like The District and appeared on CSI in 2012. Beyond acting, she built a lasting brand. In the 1980s, she began designing clothing and perfumes. In 2024, she launched a new line of elegant women's fashion on HSN. Now, in her late 70s, Jaclyn still looks every bit as polished and beautiful as ever. Back then, she was the dream woman on every poster. Today, she's living proof that style, grace, and confidence never go out of fashion. Sally Field. Sally Field has been winning hearts on screen for over 6 decades. Born on November 6, 1946, she grew up in California and stepped into the spotlight in the early 1960s. What began as light-hearted TV roles soon turned into a career filled with serious performances, emotional depth, and critical acclaim. She got her big break as the bubbly lead in Gidget and later in The Flying Nun, where her acting range made her a household name. But Sally wanted more than cute roles. She wanted to be taken seriously as an actress. In the 1970s, she began proving just how talented she really was. Films like Sybil and Norma Ray changed everything. By the time she won her first Academy Award in 1980 for Norma Ray, it was clear Sally Field was a force. In the 70s, she was also one of the most beloved faces in Hollywood. She had that girl-next-door sweetness. Men admired her, women rooted for her, and casting directors lined up to work with her. She wasn't flashy or overly polished, she was real, and that made her unforgettable. Her career only grew from there. She went on to win a second Oscar for Places in the Heart, and took home 3 Emmys for her television work. From stage roles to movies like Steel Magnolias, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Forrest Gump, she proved again and again that she could do it all. Sally has also been open about the hard parts of her life, including the trauma of a teenage abortion and past abuse. But like everything else, she faced it with honesty and courage. In 2023, she starred in the feel-good comedy 80 for Brady, alongside Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Rita Moreno. Now in her 70s, Sally Field is still working, still glowing, and still reminding everyone why they fell in love with her in the first place. Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton has always been larger than life, but underneath the wigs, rhinestones, and catchy tunes is a woman with heart and a gift for storytelling that's lasted over 60 years. Born on January 19, 1946, in the hills of East Tennessee, she grew up in a humble one-room cabin, the fourth of 12 children. Music was always part of her life, and by the late 60s, she had made it big with her debut album, Hello, I'm Dolly. From there, her rise was unstoppable. By the 1970s, with songs like Jolene and I Will Always Love You, Dolly wasn't just a country star, she was a sensation. Her voice, her style, her confidence, everything about her stood out. And let's be honest, back then, just about everyone had a crush on Dolly. She was bold, sweet, and unapologetically herself. Men adored her, women admired her, and everyone knew her name. She crossed into acting in the 1980s with hits like 9 to 5 and Steel Magnolias, earning Golden Globe nominations and showing the world she could do more than just sing. But behind the glamour, Dolly was also building an empire, one that included her own theme park, Dollywood, and a host of charities focused on education and poverty relief. She's written over 3,000 songs, sold more than 100 million records, and collected awards across music, film, and television. Her 2023 rock album, Rockstar, became her highest-charting album ever, showing she's still evolving. Now, in her late 70s, Dolly is as sharp and charming as ever. She may have been the dream girl of the 70s, but she's also become something even more rare, a living legend who's still writing her story on her own terms. Faye Dunaway. Faye Dunaway has always had a certain mystique. Born on January 14, 1941, she began her career on Broadway in the early 1960s, but it didn't take long before Hollywood noticed. In 1967, she made her screen debut in The Happening, then grabbed the spotlight with her unforgettable role as Bonnie Parker in Bonnie and Clyde. That performance earned her an Oscar nomination and instantly made her a star. In the years that followed, Dunaway's presence on screen only grew stronger. From The Thomas Crown Affair and The Arrangement to Little Big Man and Chinatown, she showed she could play everything from mysterious seductresses to sharp, complex women. Her role in Network won her the Academy Award for Best Actress. By then, Faye wasn't just one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, she was one of the most desired. In the 70s, her cool, elegant beauty and strong screen presence made her unforgettable. Everyone wanted to work with her. And yes, many wanted to date her. But Faye wasn't one for the spotlight outside of work. She has always kept her private life guarded. Though she had high-profile relationships with director Jerry Schatzberg and actor Marcello Mastroianni, she was married briefly to singer Peter Wolf and later to photographer Terry O'Neill, with whom she had a son, Liam. In later years, Dunaway took on more mature roles in independent films and theater. Her portrayal of Joan Crawford in Mommy Dearest sparked controversy, but showed she wasn't afraid to take risks. In 2024, she was announced as part of the cast of the supernatural thriller The Evilry. Now in her 80s, Faye Dunaway remains an icon. Back in the 70s, she was the ultimate screen siren. Today, she's a symbol of timeless elegance and quiet strength, still as captivating as ever. Barbra Streisand. Barbra Streisand has spent more than 6 decades doing what most people only dream of: breaking records, winning awards, and making history in nearly every corner of entertainment. Born on April 24, 1942, in Brooklyn, she began her career in the early 1960s, performing in nightclubs and small theaters. Her unique voice, commanding presence, and no-nonsense confidence quickly made her a standout. She released her first album in 1963, the Barbra Streisand Album, and it earned her a Grammy for Album of the Year. That was just the beginning. Over time, she collected 11 #1 albums and became the only artist to top the Billboard charts in 6 different decades. Songs like The Way We Were, Evergreen, and Woman in Love became timeless classics. Barbara didn't stop at music. She stepped into film and won an Oscar for her first major role in Funny Girl. Over the years, she starred in beloved hits like What's Up, Doc, Hello, Dolly, and The Way We Were. By the mid-1970s, she wasn't just a star, she was the star. Her beauty was unconventional, her voice unmatched, and her brain sharp as ever. In the 70s, it seemed like everyone admired her, and yes, many wanted to date her too. Then she made Yentl, writing, producing, directing, and starring in it. No woman had done that before in Hollywood. And she kept going, directing acclaimed films like The Prince of Tides and The Mirror Has Two Faces. With over 150 million records sold, Barbara is one of the best-selling artists of all time. She holds every major entertainment award, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony, and remains a powerful voice in culture and politics. Now, in her 80s, she's still Barbara. Bold, brilliant, and unforgettable. A legend then. A legend now. Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep, born on June 22, 1949, in Summit, New Jersey, has spent her life turning acting into an art form. With a career spanning decades, she's become the kind of actress whose name alone signals something special. Whether she's channeling Shakespeare or dancing to ABBA in Mamma Mia, Meryl brings depth, grace, and intensity to every role. She made her film debut in the late 1970s, and right away, people knew she was different. With The Deer Hunter and Kramer vs. Kramer, she wasn't just playing characters, she became them. Her performance in Sophie's Choice was so haunting and powerful, it cemented her as one of the greatest actresses of all time. Back then, her talent was matched by a quiet, striking beauty. She had an effortless charm, and in the 70s, it wasn't just her acting people admired. She had a presence that made her unforgettable, on screen and off. Over the years, her list of honors has grown almost as fast as her filmography. With more Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations than any other actor in history, Meryl is a legend in every sense of the word. She's won Oscars, Emmys, BAFTAs, and a Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Film Institute. Yet somehow, she keeps evolving. Into her 60s and beyond, Meryl has remained at the top of her game, starring in hits like The Devil Wears Prada, Julie and Julia, and It's Complicated. In The Iron Lady, she took on Margaret Thatcher and earned even more praise. Directors love working with her, and fellow actors look up to her. Now in her 70s, Meryl is still radiant, still working, and still inspiring. Back then, everyone admired her. Today, they still do, for even more reasons. Which star on this list do you think has aged gracefully? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.